Have you ever seen a moment so unfair that it stayed with you long after it happened? A moment that made you question the kind of world we're living in, and the kind of people we choose to be. Stay with me until the end of this story, because what a powerful millionaire CEO discovered about a little disabled girl, and her single father, changed not only their lives, but his own forever. And before we begin, if stories that touch your heart and restore your faith in humanity mean something to you, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a story like this again. On a chilly Monday morning in downtown Chicago, the streets were already alive with rushing footsteps, honking taxis, and the quiet tension of people chasing deadlines. At the center of the financial district stood a towering glass building, the headquarters of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. Its CEO, Alexander Hayes, was a man most people only knew from magazine covers and business news headlines. At 42, Alexander was the definition of success. His tailored suits, luxury penthouse, and billion-dollar company made him someone people admired, envied, and sometimes feared. But success had come at a cost. Alexander rarely smiled, rarely took time off, and had built emotional walls around himself that were nearly impossible to break. That morning, he stepped out of his black sedan and adjusted his watch as he prepared to enter the building. His assistant was already waiting inside with a packed schedule: investor meetings, product launches, interviews, and a late-night dinner with potential partners. But just as Alexander started walking toward the glass doors, something unusual caught his attention. Across the street, near a small public park, a group of schoolchildren were gathered around a bench. Their laughter was loud, too loud. It wasn't playful laughter, it was the kind that made someone uncomfortable. Alexander slowed his pace. In the center of that circle sat a little girl in a wheelchair. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Her dark hair was tied into 2 uneven ponytails, and she clutched a small sketchbook to her chest like it was something precious. The kids around her were pointing, whispering, and laughing. One boy mimicked the way her legs rested motionless on the wheelchair pedals. "Look at me, I'm Lily. I can't walk," he mocked cruelly. Another girl snatched the sketchbook from Lily's hands and waved it in the air. "Maybe she draws pictures of legs she wishes she had," she giggled. Lily's face turned red, her small hands trembled. "Please, give it back," she whispered. But the laughter only grew louder. Alexander stopped walking entirely. Something about the scene felt wrong in a way he couldn't ignore. He was used to ignoring things. In business, emotions were distractions. Problems were numbers, not people. But this felt different. Then suddenly, a man came running from the corner of the street. "Hey, leave her alone." The children scattered instantly. The man rushed to the wheelchair, kneeling beside the girl. "Lily, are you okay?" The little girl nodded weakly, though tears had already started sliding down her cheeks. "I'm okay, Daddy." Alexander watched silently from across the street. The man looked exhausted. His clothes were clean but worn, like someone who worked long hours and didn't have time to worry about appearances. His face carried the kind of tiredness that only life's hardest responsibilities could create. He picked up the sketchbook from the ground where it had fallen and handed it back to Lily. "They didn't mean it," he said softly, though it was clear he didn't believe his own words. Lily wiped her tears quickly. "It's okay, Daddy, I'm used to it." Those 5 words hit Alexander harder than he expected. "I'm used to it." A child should never have to get used to cruelty. Alexander didn't realize it yet, but that moment was about to change everything. He stood there longer than he meant to, watching as the father carefully adjusted Lily's blanket and began pushing the wheelchair down the sidewalk toward the bus stop. For reasons he couldn't explain, Alexander didn't go inside his building right away. Instead, he followed them. Not closely enough to be noticed, just enough to see. The bus stop was crowded. Office workers, students, and tired commuters stood shoulder to shoulder. When the bus arrived, the father struggled slightly to lift Lily's wheelchair onto the ramp. No one offered to help. Alexander felt an uncomfortable twist in his chest. Finally, the father managed to push her onto the bus, breathing heavily as he did. The doors closed. The bus drove away. Only then did Alexander realize something strange. He had just missed his first meeting of the day. And somehow, he didn't care. The image of Lily's trembling hands and quiet voice kept replaying in his mind all morning. By the afternoon, he had made a decision that surprised even himself. He asked his assistant to cancel his remaining meetings. "I need to step out for a few hours," he said. "Sir, investors from New York are arriving. Reschedule." Alexander grabbed his coat and left the building again. But this time, he wasn't heading to a boardroom or a restaurant. He was heading back to the park. What he didn't know yet was that the little girl he had seen that morning, and the struggling single father protecting her, were connected to a part of his own past he had buried years ago. And by the time he discovered the truth, Alexander Hayes would no longer be the same man. Because sometimes, the smallest voices carry the biggest lessons. And Lily's story was only just beginning.